This is why we highly recommend getting professional evaluations done, because you might be sending your highlight video to coaches and they're watching the first 3, 4 plays and then they're done. And you have your best 3 or 4 plays in the middle of your tape because you think the other plays are better, but that's not what college coaches are looking for, especially at the higher Division 1, Division 2 levels. So whether it's with us or someone else, doesn't matter. But we highly recommend, and not like a high school coach, nothing wrong with that, but not a trainer or a former player. You want it by someone who's actively currently recruiting at the highest level to do that evaluation so that you can get your highlight video set up properly. It's key. How to Get a College Football Scholarship, a series where we evaluate active high school football players. We break down their highlight video, changes they need to make to it, share with them what division they have the best chance of earning a scholarship in, and ultimately what they need to do to get to the next level. And joining me today, my co-host and our head coach here at Next Play, Brian Overton, who has 15 years of Division 1 recruiting experience, is here to break down this film for us today and share with us what this player needs to do to get to the next level. So, Brian, thanks for being here today, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right, so tell us about this player. What do we got today? Size.
So we got a good young player here, 2027 linebacker. I've got him, somewhere around 6', 6'1", between 210, 220 pounds. So really good sized kid. At that age, that I think's a really, really good player. Evaluated him just a couple of days ago, and was really enjoyed watching his tape. So for this one, obviously, like I say every week, we try to mix it up. I try to give you guys, as much variables as I can, in the unique ways that we evaluate the tape and some feedback that we give the guys. So on this one here, he's more of a traditional. We had him move some plays around, but we also had him take some out, which is typically the case most of the time. We may give timestamps sometimes, and sometimes it may be as simple as, for an offensive guy, for instance, group your touchdowns together, or for a defensive player, group your TFLs together. It may be sometimes grouping plays, not the individual timestamps. For this player here, this young linebacker here, we had some timestamps that we felt like would help him. So we'll jump right into that. I skipped ahead a little bit to show you guys some of these, just so you get a feel for what we're talking about here. So again, I think he's 6'1" or so. Like I said, 210, 220 pounds, which is really good size for a sophomore. You see some seniors out there that aren't that size, but I like his athleticism, his instincts, and things like that. So I'm gonna play this first one. I had him move. So as I play this one, and the play behind it, I had him move up into his top 5 or 6 plays. So as I let it play here, this first one, I love that he took on the block there at the point of attack and still made the play. It shows football instincts, it shows gap integrity, well coached, and it shows his physicality. Okay, this translates to college football in a major way, because if you're going to play this position in college, you got to be able to take on blockers and make plays and shed them blocks. Okay, another thing I liked about this play was, this is a pretty good sized kid, but the guy blocking him is a pretty good sized guy too. So you can kind of get a correlation there of how it would translate to college football. And then I had the same. This one was right behind the other one. What did you say,
Some
Richie?
people are going to want to know what is gap integrity? Like when you're referring to gap integrity,
Okay.
what did you mean by that?
Yeah. So let me back it up here. Good question. So, on the defensive side of the ball, and this sounds very elementary, but this is how it's coached on every level. Okay, the front four, the defensive line, depending on the call, and the linebackers, even down to the safeties and the guys, the safeties that are in the run fit, all of them are responsible for a gap. Okay, in the defense, it may differ depending on the call of the defense. It may differ, with the formation that the offense is in. Okay, so. And obviously, we don't know exactly what the call is every time here, but if you've watched enough of them and you kind of know what's going on, I won't dig into the X's and O's. You can kind of see here, he's kind of patting his feet and diagnosing this thing, knowing, that his gap is the A gap. Okay, so when this guy comes, and when I say the A gap, that is the gaps on either side of the center, so to the right or to the left of the center. Okay, in that defense, with the way that defensive lineman is lined up and the weight and the gap that he went into on the snap, I'm pretty confident that this kid's gap is the A gap. So it would be to the right of him, but to the left of the center. Okay. And as this guy comes out on him, as you can see there, he meets him kind of between the A and the B gap and makes the tackle right in his gap, which is the A gap to the left of the center. So that's what I mean by gap integrity. He's playing his gap while also defeating the block, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yep.
So it's a dual role. And the reason I say that translates to college ball because, you can play your gap, but if the more you can play your gap while taking on a block, taking it on and defeating it is two different things. If he just took it on and couldn't get off, then he's blocked and the run, may, go for an explosive or a nice play. If you're able to engage in the block and then defeat the block and also play your gap and make a tackle for no gain or a 1 yard gain, that's a really good play that translates to the college game, is what I mean by that.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. And so these two plays were back to back and kind of the same thing here a little bit. You can kind of see him let it shuffle itself out here in front of him as he goes. But he's patterning his feet there. It shows his instincts, his football IQ. He kind of overplayed it at first probably, and he's coming back across the formation. But again, he was really patient. Some young linebackers just go to the first flow and they fly around. You can see his eyes. He was really patient. His feet were really settled, and he made a really good, strong, violent tackle there for, little gain there. So I think those two plays, and the reason, again, I had him move them up, and that's big for me when I'm watching these guys' tapes, is I want to move plays up to the front that not only are highlights, guys, but that translate to the college game. Because when evaluators are watching the tape, that's what stands out. Okay, if you're doing things, especially as a young kid like this kid, that already translate, to the college game, obviously that's going to make you much more marketable and valuable as you go along in your career. And even if you're a senior, you know what I mean, you want plays in the front that are highlights and that also translate to what they're going to ask you to do at that position at the next level. Okay.
See, that's
and then I just want to skip. Go ahead, Richie. While I skip to the next.
It's so important. Yeah. This is why, guys, we highly recommend getting professional evaluations done, because you might be sending your highlight video to coaches and they're watching the first 3-4 plays and then they're done. And you have your best, 3 or 4 plays in the middle of your tape because you think the other plays are better, but that's not what college coaches are looking for, especially at, the higher Division I, Division II levels. So whether it's with us or someone else, doesn't matter, but we highly recommend, and not like a high school coach, nothing wrong with that, but not a trainer or a former player. You want it by someone who's like actively currently recruiting at the highest level to do that evaluation so that you can get your highlight video set up properly. It's key, like Brian's saying there.
Yeah, it's huge, man. It can, I mean, we say it all the time, and I know people get tired of saying it, but it's the truth. It can either keep them watching or get them off of you really quick, so, it makes a huge difference. And so then this last play, and then we'll get into, the other things is, I like this play here because of his size. Again, I think he's around 6'6'1", 210, 220 pounds, which is a big kid to be honest with you, for a 2027 that, may eventually, we said this, may grow into an edge. Okay. If he continues to get bigger, he may grow into an edge player. And what I mean, an edge player is more like a rush in, defensive end type. If you guys just saw Jack Sawyer from Ohio State that played, in the national championship game, he was, when he was coming out, this was kind of like his growth pattern a little bit. You know what I mean? He started like this, and by the time he was a senior, he was just a really long, big, good-looking sucker. This playing at a high level now, and they use him similarly. I saw them use him in the game just like this right here, in a long down, third down situation where they were only bringing 3. They were only rushing 3. He was one of them, and he got pressure on the quarterback just rushing 3. So the reason I had him, this kid here, put this on here is very similar. So now they've got him walk down into a 9 technique. And what I mean by 9 technique is he's the widest guy on the line of scrimmage on the defensive line. So he's even outside of this tight end that's got his hand in the ground. So he's not in a true linebacker, position right now. But they're going to use him as a rush. Okay. He kind of reroutes the tight end there. He doesn't do a lot, but he gets his hands on him. And then he kind of just runs through, this running back, which is just a bad matchup in pass protection. and gets a really good pressure in a hurry and a quarterback hit, in a pass rush situation, them using him as an edge rusher. Okay. And so again, I like that one because that will translate really well depending on how big he gets. And even at the size he's at right now, he may go to a program that thinks, in their scheme and their defense, he's big enough right now to do what they ask him to do. Maybe in third down and some certain packages, he can already show that he can rush the passer. So again, I wanted to move that up because it increases his value, because now you're adding, edge pass rush to the right scheme and the right school that like you in that position at the size you currently are, or they may be projecting you to gain another 10, 15 pounds and grow another inch because he's got a whole 2.5 years left of high school ball. It just makes you more marketable. And that's the other thing that highlight does, like Richie was saying, the better order you have and the better quality you tape have with the order, you can make yourself more marketable when it comes to position flex and things like that if you're a certain size and play a certain position. So that's why I wanted him to move that play up as well into the top, 5 or 6 plays.
And obviously, we're not going through every single play like we normally do with an evaluation. This is just kind of an overview. An evaluation is much
Right.
more detailed, but we just want to, show you what we're looking for when we are doing these evaluations. So, Brian, what level, based on, obviously you've watched more than the plays that we've shown here. What level
Yeah.
do you feel like he has the best chance at this point of earning a college football scholarship at?
So with the full body of work that I watched in the tape, and again, remember we had him take 2 or 3 plays out too that we thought didn't need to be on there. But so he ended up with about a solid 3 minutes worth of tape, which is really good for a 2027. Based on what I saw and the intangibles I saw, which were the size, the good good football IQ. You can tell he's got a pretty good idea what's going on, and he's got pretty good athleticism for that size. I feel really comfortable right now with him targeting heavily in his outreach Division II and Division I FCS. I think I feel really, really comfortable about him being that quality of player right now as a 2027. And I highly encouraged him to do some G5 schools on the camp circuit to get on some radars early there. And maybe do a little bit of outreach, but more like 70, 80%, 80% right now, Division II, FCS, and about 20% G5, even with the outreach, and then the camp, using the camp circuit, in the G5 area to try to get on some boards early, because he's going to stand out as a young player because of his grad year with his size and his athleticism, and they will be able to project him out. So that's what I sent him on his evaluation.
Love that. Okay. And what do you feel like he needs to do to get to the next level?
So what I put in there was, right now is as big as he is, and he shows some athleticism and things like that. He was a little bit of too much of in the full body of work tape. He was a little bit too much of a grab tackler for me. To really peg him. That's really honestly what kept him, in my mind, out of a really solid G5 evaluation. I want to see him put his pads and his helmet on people a little more. When he's got a clean shot, and even when he's going sideline to sideline, I want the physicality with the shoulder pads to show up more. Playing that position, and even if he's projected to the edge. So I want to see that show up more. I do want to see his lateral movement get better. So I told him the short area quickness, the foot speed and things like that. Really getting good at that. So if he does stay at linebacker, he'll be able to tackle in space, which is the way the college game's played today if he needed to. And then just overall long speed, just at any position now in college football, other than maybe offensive lineman and things like that. The faster you are, the more marketable you're going to be. I don't care what position you're playing unless you're a big guy. So just his overall long speed. Because I do think he's got good power. You can tell, even though he's a little bit of a grabber sometimes. He stopped people, like, you know what I mean. When he gets his hands on you, you're tackled. So you can tell he's got some power, and even on some of his other pass rush stuff, he kind of runs through some people. So I think he's tracking good there. So it's more the other stuff that I think will really get him over the hump and be like maybe by the end of next year, if those things improve, I think he'd be a solid G5 player, after his junior year.
I see G5, and then if he continues the track. he wouldn't be known
Correct.
for.
And for guys like him, I always tell them, especially guys like these young players, like if they get better at a lot of things, that we mentioned on the evaluation and things like that, it's a lot of times worth getting another one done, after the end of your junior year, you know what I mean? Because we may be talking about a totally different evaluation at that point,
Every year.
So I try to reiterate that to a lot of guys on our evals. If you get better at a lot of that stuff, not just get better at it, but if it shows up on tape, okay, I can't tell you how many times guys have gotten better at things I've asked them to do, but for whatever reason, it didn't translate to the tape. It's got to translate to the tape and make the tape better. And if that's the case, you may be talking about a whole different evaluation after a year, year or so.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, awesome, man. Well, look, really, really talented player here and young, which is awesome. So, really good stuff here. If you got value from this video and you like to watch more videos just like it, we post this style evaluation every single Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific. So if you're on your YouTube, make sure to subscribe to us. And if you'd like to see if your son meets the criteria for a professional evaluation just like this, again, it's way more in depth when we do it. This is just more a viewing, I guess, of what the process. Then there'll be a link somewhere below this video where you can click and fill out an application. Again, thank you for watching our video. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.